All right. What's going on? I see Roger. Checking it out. All right. Looks like little, I think I'm okay. Little Jerky, maybe? What's up, Jerky? What's up, Wayne? What's up, Roger? What is going on? What's going on? Same thing almost happened to me this week. Blake, good morning. Good evening for you, I think. How's everybody doing this fine American holiday weekend? Hey, Tad, good to see you. Thanks for getting up so early. Appreciate it. For those that aren't in the US of A, this weekend is our Independence Day holiday festivities. So many of us have 4-day weekends. What's up, Nubis? Good afternoon, Anubis. All right. Hey, Harrigan, Morgan. Guten Tag. Yeah, I'm hoping it's raining. It was raining outside, I think, but I think it's over. It was very brief. I can't imagine lighting off fireworks in our area. Like our grounds of the place I live looks like it's grown with, it looks like hay. It's so dry. What's up, William? So just imagine. Yeah. It isn't as smoky as it was a couple days ago, Blake. It was pretty bad. Like on Thursday was probably the worst. I know it's been the worst. The Thursday was the worst air quality day in Wisconsin's recorded history, is my understanding. I mean, it's pretty bad when you get outside and it's like just a haze, a weird haze. It's like a slight fog that hasn't burned off when you get a bright sun. But it's not a thick fog by any means. What's up, Joe? Morning. So yesterday was quite the reprieve. Wayne says, my daughter is glad she's in Georgia for once during the summer rather than Chicago. Yeah. I usually talk with my whole company and team is in Austin, Texas, for my day job. So and of course, 85-90% of the people I talk to are in the Austin region when I do my day job. So one day, so I was talking to a guy, and I said, "Hey, I'm remote. I'm up in Wisconsin." He says, "Oh, okay." And I said, "Breathe in the Canadian air." And he goes, "Oh yeah, I heard about that." And I said, "Yeah." And I said, I heard it's pretty hot down there in Austin. So I think it was like 107 degrees Fahrenheit. He's like, "Yeah, it's hot." But whenever I talk to somebody in Austin, they're not from Austin. There's so many transplants in that city. So my kind of icebreaker question is, so you're in Austin, where did you live before that? And he said, California. He said, so I lived in California in 2018 and was, a few miles from the wildfires there. And I said, so you know what's going on up here, where others down there didn't have a clue. He's like, oh yeah, I remember those times, So Blake says, I heard they have a lot of bats too, deep caves nearby. Where's that? California or in Austin? They may, I don't know. But yeah, it's much better. Could use some Austin. Okay. I have not I've kind of given like a very short nickel tour. Not even a nickel tour when I went down there. My boss at the time took me out to the place called the Oasis. I think you can Google it. It's like an eclectic bar, restaurant place with a interesting history. And the boss that I reported to at the time was native, like Austin. Grew up there, went to high school there. One of the few people that I had actually gotten to know as somebody that had grown up there. So he talked about, it's out by, I don't know if it was Travis Lake. It's the big lake down there. But this was in the end of August of last year, which was near the end of a 4-month drought. So a lot of the waterways were significantly low. But this Oasis bar restaurant is like in a bluff very high up, looks out upon this waterway lake area. He says, yeah, see that, that's like the normal height. And it's like, I think they were down, I don't know, 20 feet. It was pretty crazy, like that in depth. So hot, just freaking miserably hot down there. But I'll have to say, if you got to go with heat or air quality, I mean, if you've got respiratory issues, heat may not be too bad. Wayne, Congress Avenue Bridge in Austin is prime bat watching. Oh. I know of Congress Avenue. What's up, Living Ritual? What's going on? Good to see all you guys. Any big plans for the holiday for us Americans? The long weekend. Austin's a great city except for the traffic. Yeah, I hear about the traffic every day. As a matter of fact, it's such an issue that there are people that I talk to that won't drive across town. Like, are you open to working on site? Depends on the location. Where, like, when I talk to people in Austin, when I recruited in Madison, like, I just assumed everybody would work. If you're around the area, that you would just drive. With some caveat, like there's some people that don't want to drive across town from like outside of Madison. But in Austin, it's the first question I ask. Not only are you in Austin, but what part of Austin are you in? Like what side of town? Of course, they're like, oh, I'm off, 35 and Mopac or whatever. And I won't even know the reference necessarily. I mean, like, just is that north or south? Because it's a kind of a north-south kind of thing. Because east-west, they could obviously go in either direction. Because usually I think Austin's like a north-south travel. Oh, hi, Augie. Look, everybody. I don't know if you can see Augie. He's right here. Augie, say hi to everybody. You shouldn't be on the table. Can you get off the table, please? Augie. Ugh. Knock it off. But, yeah, it's terrible traffic. They just can't imagine. And I don't even drive. I'm remote, so they obviously almost DC bad. Yeah, it's terrible. Charring some dead animals with fire is only celebratory plans. I'll char fungus and plants too. You have your days filled with charring. I can appreciate that. What's up, Chris? Good to see you. Lou? Or L-U-K? I know folks who will drive Milwaukee to Madison for work. Yeah, for sure. As long as you don't have to go across the Beltline. For those that aren't, like, familiar with the Madison the city of Madison, which I would imagine is a majority of you, even though some of you have been here. It's on we have an isthmus. So if you don't know what an isthmus is, it's a bridge of land between two bodies of water. And that's usually running through downtown. So Madison is a very east-west city, east-west. And we have one thoroughfare called, affectionately called the Beltline, or the Beltline Highway. And it's just, if anything goes wrong on the Beltline at any time during a good amount of traffic, you're just screwed. It's because in order to go through downtown, it's such a pain in the ass. So when I say, when Lou talks about coming from Milwaukee, that's directly east of us, if they can hit the eastern side of Madison, it could probably take them 40 minutes to drive 60 miles. It will take you 40 minutes to go 10 miles in Madison if the Beltline's hosed, or you got to go through downtown during traffic. Hey, Michael, good morning. So, we're talking about weather and traffic this morning. Traffic on the nines, weather on the half. I don't know. Oh, man. I tell you. You guys didn't want to show up to talk about this. Question du jour. All right, we're going to go with this one. It might be an easy one for some of you, might not be. Who is your favorite RPG publisher? Who's your favorite tabletop RPG publisher? Okay. Could be very small press. If it's an individual, then call it the individual. If it's a company, obviously you know what to do. And why? Like, what do you appreciate from the company? I'm sure there's some pretty easy softball reasons around that, but who's your favorite RPG publisher? Let's give out some love for folks. Any size, any game, tabletop role-playing game, of course. Could be based on supplements, could be based on core game, could be based on the Kickstarters they've done, whatever it is. There could be, them just being good citizens of the hobby. So, arrogant first one to chime in says, Free League, hands down. First, he says. And also a subsequent one that he puts in is Goodman, as in Goodman Games, as in DCC, amongst some others. Gabe Dibbing, I have to go with open-ended games because of my personal involvement with those good people. Excellent. What do they put out, Gabe? What is open-ended games? Give me a product that somebody might recognize for those that may not be in the know. Wayne says, I'm going to say Goodman. They have a great positive culture. That's for sure. Know quite a few friends I've met through the Dungeon Crawl Classics DCC community. Jen Brinkman works for them. Amongst others, of course. Michael Curtis. Met him, played in one of his games at GaryCon. Very super nice guy. Roger says, couple of Drakes. Nice. Blake agrees. Drakes are good people. We like good people. Oh, Gabe Dibbing, of course. He says, Against the Dark Master. That's the game. See, I don't even know who puts out Against the Dark Master. I've got the book right over there. Yes, I still have the book, Gabe. Chris S. says, I don't have one. Really? Not even Encoded Designs? Chris says, don't have one. Come on. Come on, buddy. You can promote your own if you want. Tad Lackman says, right now, free league for sure. Interesting worlds and themes, beautiful art, fun, flexible mechanics. That is a very well-rounded answer, Tad. Thank you very much. Chris says, no one picks their own company. Be different. You could be the first. I'll say it, Encoded Designs. Make sure you go check out Encoded Designs. Some of the work that they've done. To include working on the new, highly anticipated, years in the making, Streets of Avalon, the RPG system. Or RPG game. RPG game, a little redundant. Is that like saying a Nick card for us tech nerds? Chris says, maybe when we release something new. Fair enough. Free League also has book construction master and helps the indie community. Harrigan adds. Now, just need to get those American logistics down. Just the distribution. That's all they need. Chris, you're 3 play tests into the RPG. Nice. Brendan LaSalle's from Goodman. Yes. There's many. Brendan, of course. Yep. Wayne says. Need to be more patient, Uber consumer. Indeed. No question. No question. Like, Nubis is probably like, give me a break, Sean. You ordered that, like, what, the 21st of June, and you're getting it. I did get a notification that I think it's targeted to be delivered July 6th, 2023. Today's the 1st. So even in Canada, they're probably like, give me a frickin' break, man. Takes like 6 months for us to get stuff here. Yes, well, I mean, what kind of American would I be if I weren't obnoxious and demanding, if you will? Probably a good American if I weren't. An understanding American, an empathetic American. Today's theme of the day is America because, well, it's our birthday weekend, goddammit. I'm just kidding. It's not going to be the theme. Chris says, it's an interesting question. I used to love Evil Hat, but I haven't bought anything from them in 4 years. Yeah. It's all right. It says, can confirm. Sometimes I'm surprised at the speed, but mostly I'm surprised that I ordered something. Tad says, if I weren't an obnoxious, demanding American, wouldn't that make me Canadian? I mean, I don't know. Now, I will say this. Great-grandparents from Canada. So I got a little Canada blood in me. So there you go. I actually am part Canadian. Some of you might not have known that. The 40As were from Canada. From Canada. Nelson, good to see you. Farty McButterpants in the flesh, if you will. He says, Word Mill Games. Tana puts out a lot of material to help solo players. Shout out to Word Mill Games. Thanks, Nelson. Good to see you, man. Chris says, I've never been enthralled with a Free League game. I've read Tales from Loop, but I'm like, meh. Into the odd, meh. Mutant Year Zero, meh. Played sessions of Tales and Mutant Year Zero, meh. Well, Chris, here ends our relationship. It's been good knowing you, and I appreciate and understand your opinion, however wrong it may be. But, I mean, I don't bash encoded designs work. If you want to just go off the deep end and put that out there, that's, I mean, your prerogative, I guess. Okay, hold on, everybody. Hold on. Don't grab the egg cartons just yet. This means no harm. I get it. Well, that's the thing. That's the thing with Free League. I will say this. If you're not a fan of the Year Zero engine of its two types of iterations, or you don't, you're just not, like that system isn't the best, it's not my thing, or Simba Room isn't my thing. They have a lot of eggs in one basket. We'll say that. So, I mean, if it's not your jam, or even the art, even though I kind of like, even art style, right? Like some of us love their art style and the artist that does a lot of their material. But if you're on the opposite end of that, yeah. Yep. So that explains everything. Free League, Lou says Free League, but also want to add a plug for the Media Lab Game Master books. Not RPG themselves, but good source materials. All right. Shout out to Media Lab. Thanks, Lou. Coded Designs did an excellent Tarrasque adventure, says Blake Ryan. They did. Was that what's his name's the creation Chris TED Talk? Oh, what's his name? I can't remember, from Coded Designs. I thought he was the force behind that Tarrasque book. Arcadian, right? John? See, my memory's not completely gone. It's just on slow motion. Salt Heart says, got Lord of the Rings 5e coming. It's Free League. Indeed it is. There you go, Chris. You could get Lord of the Rings for 5e. Not even be Year Zero engine. And it's 5e. Look, he says, I just dropped some opinions. The layouts are pretty, but not engaging to read. I do love the art. There you go. So there's a redeeming quality somewhere for Chris. But yeah, Harrigan, I agree. Wow, clearly not for Chris. That's top 10 RPG of all time for me. And yeah. Well, everybody knows where I stand with Free League. Chris does say, the mystery system in Vaesen isn't new or innovative, but it's solid and functional, nothing special, but good. Yeah, John Arcadian. Yep. Chris says, yeah, I wrote the adventure inside of it. Oh, sweet, man. Very good. Joe says, Book of the Trask. I still haven't gotten that to the table. So for those that have just shown up, I'm asking, who is your favorite RPG publisher? Whether it's supplements, system, website, game aids, resources, best citizenship in the hobby, whatever that is. So who is your favorite RPG publisher, and then maybe why? And it could be as simple as, I just love their products, or I love their game system, or their mechanics, or the people. Chris has entered a hostile room. No, we're not hostile. One of the vocal minorities, I will say. That's okay. Yeah, for sure. Tad says, Gauntlet's doing great stuff. Publishing games, Trophy, Brindlewood, and podcast Fear of a Black Dragon, and building positive community. Yep. No question with Jason Cordova at the spearheading that, for sure. No question. A certainly worthy of a Positive Force Award in RPGs. Salt Heart of Saltlandia says, Modifius, great IP, great books, great system, 2D20. What about what is it? Salt Heart Designs? Burn 2d6, maybe. Kevin doesn't like himself. He's trying to be humble. He doesn't want to promote his own game. Come on. Look, gamers, you can promote and market your own stuff. You can do it. You can brag about it. You could shove it in people's faces. It's okay. You can do it. That's how you get it into other people's hands and have them experience the joy of which you have just put and forged put your blood and sweat into that product. Wayne says, I'll put a shout out for Necrotic Gnome / Exalted Funeral. All right. Necrotic Gnome, Exalted Funeral. Necrotic Gnome is notorious for the OSE, right? Gavin Norman's stuff. And then an Exalted Funeral is more on the distribution side. I do love Gauntlet Publishing, but they need to follow through on what they've been promising to push out this year. Yeah, I haven't been keeping up with their stuff. Like, I'm not in on their Kickstarters. I haven't picked up a lot of their books and stuff. I am intrigued by the Brindlewood Bay, New Mexico one. I can't remember the name of the game. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. And this is like with anything. It's like with Year Zero Engine, it's with D&D 5e, it's like PBTA and Blades and Forged in the Dark. If you are not a fan of, say, PBTA games, and there is a slew of them out there, there's a whole chunk of the hobby that people are just like, no thanks. Not that that's not, obviously, Sean, but it's, what I'm trying to say is that I think people will prejudge a game just based on that alone. And I'm guilty of it, for sure. One of the shortcomings I have is, well, I've played PBTA and I've owned Dungeon World and I've run Dungeon World, not like 2 or 3 years, but a few sessions. And I've bought MASH, which was a PBTA game based on the movie and TV show. And, cyberpunk games like the Sprawl and the Veil. And I mean, I've owned Apocalypse World. A lot of those I haven't played. Like, I picked them up, thought they were cool, sounded good. Totally respect playbooks. I like the moves, the D6s, fail forward, +1 forward, all that stuff. But it's just, I think when you're in the PBTA world, and if that's your jam, similar to like Year Zero Engine. Like, if I'm a Year Zero Engine person, then I'd probably eat up all the Year Zero Engine games. And so if somebody's in the PBTA space or Forged in the Dark, like, that's probably, 80% of the reason why somebody might buy that purchase or pick up that book. Buy that purchase that book. So I see these like really interesting silos in the industry. Not everything out there is, it's D20, it's 2D, like even 2D20. You got 2D20, D20, Year Zero Engine, and then there's 2 different kind of variations of that. And then you have PBTA and Forged in the Dark. And then you have like some smaller offshoots that are very similar to some of those. I don't know. It's an interesting world, I guess. I don't know where I'm going with that, but Michael Holland says, as an old fan and former moderator, Heyo of White Wolf, I will forever be a fan of Onyx Path Publishing. I love their work. Just received Exalted Essence this week. Very good. Thanks for chiming in, Michael. Nubis says, shout out to Lost Pages, mostly for their spell books, Wonder and Wickedness, Marvels and Malison's Book of Gaub, also Macchiato Monsters and Genial Jack. That is a mouthful there. Thanks, Nubis. Blake says, yeah, I'll say Onyx Path 2. The 20th anniversary version of their games is so much good stuff in the core books. Gauntlet, late more often than not. Take your word for it. But I have an appreciation, just for the record, because I don't know where I was going with that little weird tangent. For the record, I have an appreciation of the PBTA space and the people that create games using those mechanics, the moves, the playbooks, if they have them and they're, they apply. Even Forged in the Dark. It's not easy to put those things together. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of passion and love that goes into things like that. And there's so many. There is just so many. You can love anything that, just say you love even 25% of the stuff that's out there. You just have an appreciation. Maybe not even love. You have an appreciation for the sweat that people have put into their creations, whether it's a derivative of something that's already out there, right? Like, hey, I'm going to create a 2D20 game, inspired by Modifius, and I'm going to modify it a little bit. And whether you put it under their license or do it yourself, whatever that is, you got to admire the folks that have taken the risk and taken the time to put that stuff out there. But here's the thing, like every weekend I get on here and we go through the Kickstarters and we go through the print news, and there is and that's just like, say, a game. Like, I have one game, one book, here you go, have fun. Not to mention all the supplements. And the population of our hobby is so small that there is literally, I wonder if there is literally, like, if somebody has ever done the numbers to say there are 5 books in the role-playing game hobby for each member of the hobby. If you took all the books, different systems, different supplements, literally published, probably even drive-through, just go through drive-through, and if they were ones that you could get in, we'll say the ones that you can get in print, not to put off anything on the PDF side by any means, but just say to help kind of with the numbers. If you took every product that you could get on print on demand and you took like the overall size of the hobby, how many, I got to imagine it's got to be a positive amount of books per person versus a negative where you would be, there's one book for every 5. Like, I think it's flipped. Like, it's just so much. It's crazy. And that's maybe that's good. It's better than the opposite. Like, there's nothing out there. Blake says there are 90 plus PBTA games. They are not all the same in mechanics, tone, or style. Well, okay, sure, but what makes a PBTA then? Of course, they're not all the same. They're not identical. But what is it? There has to be a commonality in order to call it a PBTA game, right? There's got to be some weird qualifier. Otherwise, it would not be called PBTA. And I think 90s probably. I mean, dude, I got to imagine some of those itch bundles. And I think there's probably, and Nelson might know this, like, I'm sure there's a couple solo mechanic systems that are out there that are pretty prevalent as well. And I don't know if there's names for those. I'm really ignorant in that space. But I would imagine that there's, like, I know for Time to Kill it's card based, right? You have a sheet and it's like this question, and then there's a list of prompts based on what card you flip and what suit. And then same for the next one. And I think it's like those prompts are based on each suit and it's usually journaling, maybe, not always, but I'm sure there are some very, like, not canonized, but established solo systems that are probably a whole nother silo that we're probably underestimating in their presence. So Harriet says, I think I own 30 to 40 in PDF. Yeah, alone, right? Chris says, commenting on RPGs is tricky because reading it is one thing, playing it is another. So thinking about publishers is another because it's about the experience they give you when engaging with the game. Yeah. And their company says. That's why I don't have a favorite at the moment. Fair enough. That's okay. Good morning, Jason. The question of the day is, who is your favorite publisher? Your favorite tabletop RPG publisher, whether it be game, supplement, Game Aid, citizen representing good citizenship in the hobby, whatever that is. And so just who is that and why? Nelson, so many ways to play solo. It's even more individualized, which is okay. I think that's not a bad thing. I think when we start going, there is something to be said about the people that take a game and I'm gonna build my own game. The trouble is, not the trouble, but many times we're influenced by what we've already played and read and run. So it's hard to come in cold necessarily. So we are influenced by what's been out there. Probably we're influenced in a lot of ways that's been existing and things of that nature. But I do think it's something else to do your own thing. PBTA, insert big mechanics that get people that are buying a lot of it. And it may be just like, hey, I don't want to do a lot of that lifting. I like the setting that I'm dealing with. And so I'm just going to use this because this system really, and I can maybe tweak just a couple things rather than reinvent the whole wheel. It's a very, very big design question or decision. Chris says game design is iterative. There are very few moments when someone has crafted something and we all went, whoa, that's new and novel. More so now, right? I think those in the day, like the bakers with Power Apocalypse World, and then somebody going, you know what, I can use that system to make other games. So the things that I think it brought, there might have had, like somebody could say, well, dude, that I did that before. Like I had playbooks, like D&D playbooks. I had D&D playbooks. 2D6. Like 2D6 has been around a long time. Like that's nothing innovative, but I think usually it's like the combination and putting those all in one thing to make them all work together in a cohesive way for the gaming experience is always an interesting one. That's why I wanted to strangle Brett all the time, because he's like, I don't find it. I mean, so what? I did that. I've done that. I've done that in D&D. I've done that in my games. Like I don't need to know +1 forward. I know I just do it. Like I don't need a rule to tell me to do it. I don't need a system to tell me to do it. I just done it. And it's like, well, hold on a second. Go, yes, sure. But so then these games come along, like, Forged in the Dark, or, Blades in the Dark, if you will, and bring them all together to make it one whole thing. That's like at its core. It's not something that's been bolted on. Blake Sard, yeah, I already mentioned Blake said, yeah. Chris says, and when someone does make something new, it's usually just them putting their table play culture and style down and rules. But I would also ask, like, why choose certain things, right? Iterative and derivative. There it is. Lou, yeah, bingo, Lou. And that's not a bad thing, of course. I think Chris is right about styles becoming rules. Sure. But why are you like I would pose a question to you, Chris. Like, why are you choosing some of the things for the Avalon RPG? What just why did you decide to do I'm going to put this in there? And then you say, well, we're still up doing a play test. It's not fully baked, Sean. And I say, sure. So then after that, when it gets released and we talk and I go, oh, I see you kept that, but you got rid of a couple other things. Why did you do that? And then you could say, well, it just didn't work on play test. It was clunky. You know, it complicated things or didn't, we thought it would succeed in doing this or facilitating this, and it really didn't get it to the level we wanted, so we just pulled it. Like, there's all kinds of stuff, but Jason says, Ambassador Finch, Goodman, Primus, Perkins, Publisher, Wizards of the Coast, Business, OBS. Oh, look at that. Hitting all of them. Bam, boom, bingo. Because Chris says, because they're things that help people play the way I GM. And the way Brett GMs. Ambassador. Our host, of course, Sean K. Come on. Appreciate it. Thanks, Jason. All right. We can talk about this ad nauseum for hours upon hours upon hours, and days upon days. Nights go by. It's a millennium. And we're talking about game mechanic choices. All right. Let's get into this. We're going to kick off. We're going to definitely kick off with this. I think this will be a good one. All right. Thanks for all the feedback, guys. All right. This one, Origin Awards. I don't know if you guys have picked up on this. They are out, done, finished. That is not the Origin Awards. Let me make sure. I fix my sources except for this one. So let me just get this squared away so you guys can actually see what I'm doing. Play elevator music. Prompt elevator music. Like the two between two ferns music. I like that. The one that Zach plays. Zach Galifianakis. All right. There we go. That'll help. That should help you out, right? Alrighty then. Here we go. EN World helps us get some of this info. So thanks, EN World. Check out enworld.org. Coyote Crow, Dune. Woo-hoo. Origins Game Fair. You can see them all on the Origins website, which is, I would have brought up the Origins website, but I thought it was like EN World where they put out the winners and then they never post it to their website for like 6 months. Just kidding, EN World. Just kidding, Origins. But come on. Sometimes it's true. First one, retailer game of the year. Boop. I haven't played Boop. Origins fan favorite, Flamecraft by Lucky Duck Games. Board games. Sorry, board gamers. No board games. This right here, no board games. Don't get me wrong. I'll play them. I just don't play them very often. But for those, I will submit and say board games, social, light strategy are creature comforts. Board games strategy, Planet Unknown, and board games, Thematic, Dead Reckoning. There you go, okay? Card games, no card games. I'm more susceptible to board games. RPGs, board games, card games. That's the priority. Card game, Scout. Children's game, Honk. Collectibles, Magic the Gathering, Universes Beyond, Warhammer 40K Commander's Deck. Wow, that is a mouthful. Magic the Gathering, Universes Beyond, Warhammer 40K Commander's Deck. Miniatures game. Oh, miniatures. I would probably play more miniatures if I had a choice between board games, miniatures, or card games. Miniature game Lion Rampant, 2nd edition by Osprey Games. RPG Core, Coyote and Crow. Or Coyote and Crow. RPG supplements, Agents of Dune by Modifius. Accessory, deluxe board game train sets, Little Plastic Train Company. 2D art and illustration, Cowboys with Big Hearts by Bully Pulpit Games, which is interesting because I don't think I know of that one. That's Jason Morningstar's game company. He's the guy, one of the guys behind Fiasco, amongst other things. Night Witches. 3D art. 3D art, what? Fallout Wasteland Warfare, Super Mutants, Swan by Modifius. And then graphic design, Pathfinder, Savage Worlds, the boxed set, Pinnacle Entertainment Group. And then reviews, Mind MGMT review? I don't know. Interesting stuff, folks. There you go. Many of these I have not heard of, and I don't own Coyote and Crow. I know they've been around for a while, but good. Congratulations to all the Origin nominees and the winners. Bravo. There you go. There you go. Sean, you played D&D. It's a board game. Get out. Blake. I only play board games at cons now. I can't find anyone to play now that kids are grown up. Cheers, 3 cheers for Pathfinder Savage Worlds, says Michael Holland. Tad, one of my players gave me Agents of Dune as a GM thank you gift. It's really nice and made me want to get Dune back to the table. There you go. Now you have a reason, Tad. Yeah, don't you love how players do that? Hey, I got you this gift. What are they trying to tell you? What are they trying to tell you? We'll go with this one. We'll go with this one quick. This one I brought up, geez, I think it was about a month ago probably when it was announced that this was happening. KB Presents. So Keith Baker, the person behind the, well, that's an interesting link. Why is it bringing that up? Uh-oh. This tweet is from an account that no longer exists? Well, that's even more interesting. Huh. Wah, wah. Whale. That's not even a whale fail. Why did Keith do that? So this tweet should have, I'm sure I could probably dig it up on an archive, but it was Keith Baker who, he just basically retweeted or subtweeted his saying like, hey, as of June 30th, Keith Baker Presents is done. They're over. And then it was the letter, because he had put this letter out before, and he was just like, kind of as a reminder, like, hey, just a reminder, closing shop, have a nice day. And he retweeted the same link making the announcement, and some of the people that you can follow up with that were involved with Keith Baker Presents and some of the things that they're doing and some of the links, like Wayne Chang, I would consider Wayne a friend. He was very heavily involved in KB Presents and some of the Eberron books. But I didn't realize Keith deleted the account. Like, I don't know. Weird. So, yeah. What's up, Christian? Did you see that, Christian? What? Like, maybe, like, I I call out Christian because he knows these guys. I didn't realize, like, part of the deal was, like, you got to delete the Keith Baker, the KB Presents Twitter account. What? That's a bummer. I mean, I didn't even delete the Gaming MBS Twitter account. I mean, and we went for like 7 years. Like, not even close. Not even close to the comparison. Oh, well. Strange. Okay, well. Good to see you, buddy. Yes, but I think maybe Wayne ran that account. Not sure. Yeah, I don't know. What? I should hit him up. Like, dude, why did he delete it? Well, anyways, so much for that. But yeah, Keith Baker Presents is done. Like, as of yesterday. Finn. Keith continues to do things under his other title, which I would have mentioned, but here it's gone. But the Holy Cow one or whatever is no. It's his other company. Christian's going to correct me because I can't remember what his company is. Jeez. There you go. That's the kind of news you're getting here, folks. Verified, consistent, eloquent. You get what you pay for. All right. Anyways. Well, we wish Keith the best of luck and everybody that was involved with Keith Baker Presents. Again. Together Studios. Thank you. That's the one I was looking for. Hard-hitting investigative journalism. Thanks, Roger. Oh man. Let's do this one. Oh, and I would have probably put the link in there, but I guess I don't really need to. Jeez. Cheese whiz. So professional. Yep. Yeah. For sure. So this one I thought was interesting because I think some of us like this stuff. And Blake being here probably has an appreciation of this. So this is 2021. Ian World says was a massive year for tabletop role-playing game crowdfunders. And they did an article. They've been tracking it. Blake's tracking it too as well. Christian, you didn't even tune into this show. You don't tune into this show. The one day. Just kidding. As many of you know, who is this? Morris? I think Morris. Yeah, Morris over at Ian World keeps a record of all $1 million+ tabletop role-playing crowdfunding projects. That's $1 million US, folks. I just want to get that straight. We're not talking Australian. We're not talking about Canadian or anybody else that wants to mimic and use the moniker dollar. Okay, just again, today, this weekend, America's birthday. It's all about America. Okay. Anyways, I'm being facetious. Loosen up. If somebody sees this later, come on. I'm just joking. There are 25 members of that exclusive club. Blake, can you confirm? Blake is my fact checker on this. Kickstarter launched in 2009. The first million. Okay, wait. Before anybody reads that, who is the first $1 million Kickstarter in the role-playing game space? Do you guys know? Anybody? First $1 million Kickstarter. Kickstarter was launched in 2009. I'll give you a hint. Okay, because let me see. I'm not gonna take this off so I could read it, but Kickstarter was launched in 2009. The first $1 million Kickstarter wasn't until 2016. Wow, I saw the graphic. Chris, but if you didn't see the graphic and read it, yes, it is 7th Sea. You're right. It was the first one. 7th Sea, 2nd edition by nobody other than the infamous John Wick. RPG John Wick. The next was 2 years later. Second one. Who's the second one? Probably see that one. Who's the second? Who's the second? Did I put the link in there? Did I put the link in the chat? I did, didn't I? Did. Anybody know? We'll take a stab at it. Second big $1 million Kickstarter. $1 million plus. You might be surprised. I was surprised. All right. You guys are not wanting to play? Okay, I get it. Oh, not Numenera. And since we have everybody collected right now, do me a favor, hit the like button or the dislike button, and make sure you subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. Helps me. Thank you very much. Chris is batting 1,000. I gotta think. Yeah, it's you're right. Don't be cheating, Chris. I know you got integrity. I know you're not cheating, but it is Matt Colville. He's launched his Strongholds and Streaming campaign, the first of his $3 million Kickstarters. I think that's the first of his $3 million Kickstarters. I think there's a comma that should be in there. The first of his $3 million Kickstarters. In 2021, the tabletop role-playing game crowdfunding scene exploded. 11 projects, nearly one every month, broke the $1 million barrier. The following year, 2022, saw 7 more join the club. 2023 so far has only seen $2 million, the punctuation, $2 million tabletop role-playing game projects. Not yet counting the Gloomhaven Grand Festival, which is a tricky one. Is it technically an RPG Kickstarter? There's an RPG level, which at the time of this writing is still going. That's of July 1st, 2023. So continuing, it very much seems that the phenomenon is slowing down. The explosion coincides with the COVID-19 pandemic, although correlation is not causation. So here's some fun stats. We all love stats. Stats. Ooh. Numbers. The first tabletop RPG Kickstarter to break $1 million was 7th Sea. Yep, 2016. The second was Strongholds and Streaming by Colville in 2018. Then 3 years later, the next one was Avatar. $9 million. They obviously don't put Critical Role on here. Was it for an RPG? No, it wasn't for an RPG. It was for a cartoon, right? Animated series, cartoon. I'm gonna call everything that's like the animated series. Is that an effort for people to be like, it's not a cartoon? Like, is it just us adults like, well, I watch an animated series. I don't watch cartoons. Is cartoon like a negative thing? So anyways, it continues. Avatar Legends, $9 million, 2021 for Magpie. The first to break $1 million on its first day was Avatar. $1 million in one day. That's crazy. Good for them, man. I remember that was nuts. The first to break $1 million without physical merch, add-ons, which would include minis, dice, shirts, pins, etc., was Coyote and Crow, the role-playing game from Connor Alexander. The only other campaign to do this so far is Shadow Dark. That's interesting stuff, right? So what are the rules? Like, what are we learning from there? You don't need all that physical garbage to do $1 million Kickstarter. The average pledge level for a $1 million campaign is about $100. This is usually reached by including add-ons and merchandising. The lowest average level was $66 for Coyote and Crow with just the game itself. And the highest is $223 for Tenares with numerous miniature packs. I don't know that one. Am I missing that one? I don't know. What is that one? Do I know that one? Most entries are Hit Point Press with 3 campaigns over $1 million and contributor on 2 more. And Matt Colville with 3 campaigns over $1 million. I'm telling you. I've said this before. The space can be very volatile. Not volatile. It's not owned by anybody. I don't think. Like, I think we could say that. You don't have to be Wizards of the Coast to like all of a sudden be like a RPG, tabletop RPG, like 3 $1 million Kickstarters. Bam, boom, bam. Now, Matt is not without RPG cred, right? He had worked on RPGs in the past in tabletop. I don't know if a lot of people actually know that, because I don't know if he talks about that a lot. But he wasn't like, many times I know when people watched his videos, at least for me, I knew that he was in the video game space as his day job. And he did some books, like he promotes those on his YouTube. I don't have a Patreon. If you want to support me, go buy my books, my science fiction or fantasy books that he was writing. So, but like, he wasn't like Green Ronin. He wasn't Privateer Press, Goodman Games, Monty Cook Games, that we all kind of associate a lot of role-playing games with. He wasn't Free League. But he was a YouTuber, playing the game, talking about D&D all the time. Now, he's very, 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 he was very, 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 very tied to D&D, specifically 5th edition. Like, I would be interested to find out what his first YouTube video was and when 5th edition was released. Now, don't get me wrong, he had played previous editions for sure, but I'm just wondering when his channel started, because the whole thing was playing the game. That was his series, and it was very, very much D&D based, specifically around 5th edition. However, prior videos that I might not even know about, like in the very, very early stages when he was, 50 subscribers, might have been it could have been 4th edition for all I know. It'd be interesting to know. Anyways, Ghostfire Gaming has $1 million campaign of their own and is listed as contributed to 3 others. And then Hit Point Press has $3 million campaigns and is listed as a contributor on 2 more. What do we see in all these? John Wick's 7th Sea, it's its own game. Matt Colville, 3 $1 million and 1 $2 million. Well, we'll just say 3 over 1 million plus 5e based. Magpie Games, Avatar Legends, its own thing for the most part. Yeah, I think there is some. Is there some PBTA aspects to Avatar Legends, but it is not a PBTA straight game as far as I know, right? Coyote and Crow, good. Shadow Dark, it's kind of its own thing, I would say. I don't know if I would lump it into the 5e space. I think it's kind of like, hey, we're taking some things like many games and just making it our own. It's not like a 5e. Like Matt's stuff is 5e, I would say, right? Ghostfire Gaming, I think they're very big into the 5e space. Hit Point Press, probably too, I'm guessing, yes. Avatar is PBTA? Okay, well, there you go. So my point is that is 5e dominating the $1 million plus Kickstarter space? Dominating? I don't know if that would be accurate. Part of it for sure. So there you go. That's it. That's all the stats. So if you're looking for even more, you're gonna have to come up with your own. I got an itchy nose. Is Cobalt Press on the list for Tales of the Valiant? Well, my guess is that it's not. It's not, because this is like focusing on 2021, not necessarily 2023. So it's probably is it even done? No Free League games on that list, Sean? Blake, I don't think they did a lot of $1 million. You remember Mothership was also $1.4 million. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Is it? Yeah. One thing he didn't list in here is 2022. But yeah, so yes, the article's a little light for sure. Obviously, we're pointing that out. Yeah, I don't think Free League's had $1 million Kickstarter. Is that? Is that what you're saying? Is that why you commented on that, Blake? Is that a dig? Or as my old man would say, is that a shot? Is that a shot? Love you, Blakey. The One Ring? Was it 1.9 million? Even The Walking Dead didn't hit that, which is really, that's so. Having said that, not to get on a really, interesting side tangent, but look, a lot of people, not a lot of people, but I know some people that like they would be interested in like they would buy or be more interested in Free League if they didn't get it. They got a lot of IP that they're licensing, right? So some have said, I really wish they would do something of their own specifically, which is fine. I totally get it. But having said that, it is interesting to see like the total audience of The Walking Dead, like at its prime, or who, like anybody who's watched The Walking Dead for a season or more, like how many people is that? It's got to be a lot, right? And then how many people may have not watched The Walking Dead but are fans of the comic? Okay, some of them are one and of the same, right? And then you look at the Kickstarter for the RPG and how I would say, comparatively speaking, low the results were. I think that's indicative of how small our hobby is. Jason, you would know, you're like marketing guy, right? Like it is, you can literally go, look at that. And wow, that really puts things in perspective. Now, at the same time, Avatar went bonkers too. So I guess one could say there are many, many more fans of Avatar that are also role-playing gamers. A lot of people burned out on Walking Dead. I think it was too late. So you know what? You might be onto something there, Christian. So if they launched that Kickstarter at the top of the Walking Dead's series, maybe it was at season 4 that it was off the hook. Yeah, it could be just timing. So Blade Runner's on the list. Numbers also aren't final for Tales of the Valiant. TOTV. See, now I got to know what that is. TOTV. TOTV. Fun stuff to finish clearing and all that. Blade Runner is a Free League game. It is. The One Ring RPG 1.9 million question mark. Come on, Blake. You already got the spreadsheet, don't you? Also the One Ring, so they have 2 games on the list. Okay. There it says yes for sure. It's one of the lesser IP related games. Tad, zombie fatigue. I should run. I think part of me wants to run Walking Dead at GameholeCon. Just maybe a short Walking Dead. Get people a little tasty taste. Jason says Fate. That was a bellwether moment for sure. Remember thinking that was a big moment for a lot of things. Rules Light and the power of crowdfunding small pubs. That's a good point. I forgot to mention Fate. Right? PBTA, Forged in the Dark, Fate. Like who are the big ones? Who are the big silos of RPGs for games? PBTA, Forged in the Dark, D20, D&D things, right? Year Zero Engine, 2D20. I think those are the big ones, right? Blake says One Ring 1.9 mil, Dragonbane 750K, Vase in Britain 668. Yeah. Okay, Chris says 15 projects on that list are 5e compatible. That's pretty dominant if you ask me. Is it that many? Did you Oh. And we'll take your word for it. I didn't see 15, but okay. That does not surprise me. You went through all of them. Okay. Yeah, that does not surprise me. Because every like week we're on here, and every freaking Kickstarter, like, was it 75% or 5e related? I think it started dwindling once the OGL thing got kind of weird place. So, but my point is, going back to Colville, and because I never finished that thought, shocker, is this could be anybody's game. It literally could be anybody's game. And you know what? It could be anybody's game for a very brief period of time. Because right now, Matt's like doing his own game, right? You can be a part of his Patreon and get some insight. I know he talks about it on streams on Twitch. He's still doing YouTube and things of that nature. But like, I think his days of promoting 5e are, you know, he's still doing Arcadia. But that, Tales of the Valiant could, you know, Cobalt Press be like the dominant player in the game, even with Paizo. Like, we haven't mentioned Paizo, but you know, it could be. Those 5e products are from a bunch of different companies. Christian says it could be, but having funds beforehand helps. Christian, the immaterial plane. He could be he and his partner could be the next thing. Puts out a Kickstarter, $10 billion Kickstarter, boom, bam, takes over the industry. We all love the game. We all love the system. You're not going to play anything else. It's over. Yeah, Kickstarters, man, I heard they are a beast to run. Kevin can probably attest to that, right? Many people in the chat can. Chris has run them too. Yeah, they're making a new game over at MCDM that will be a bit different. Yeah. Also, a guy like Questing Beast made $500,000. He was just doing things mostly by himself. Yeah, right, exactly. Ben Milton. I mean, Shadow Dark. What's her name? Like, that's, who would have saw that come out of nowhere? Like, it's like somebody you're not even aware of. But if you're not like directly following them on YouTube, or you're not playing like in that space, or maybe they're a streamer and they love 5e, and then they just go, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm going to create my own. It's going to be awesome. And they already have a following, and they put it out there, and they do $1.5 million in Kickstarter or whatever. Ben Milton's a good example of building a base first. Yeah, for sure. And for those that don't know Ben, Questing Beast, Knave, right? His first game, like, it's probably a blip. Unless you're in that space, then it's probably pretty common. Knave 2, off the charts. Like, did he even kickstart Knave? Like, he might have just released that and like, hey, here's a zine, and you know, called it a day. I don't remember. I don't know. I haven't been following Ben all that close, but Dungeon Dudes are on that list twice. Most common thread is either have a company with games first or have a following on YouTube. That was his first Kickstarter, Knave 2. That's what Harrigan's saying. He's confirming. Yeah. Right. So how many copies of Knave, the first version, has he sold? And now, here's the trick. How many is it going to sell? Because everybody's going to get Knave 2.0. Maybe they don't get Knave 1. I don't know. Because sometimes we don't go backwards, right? Like, oh, I really should get the first one. Unless it's different or complements the one. Oh, it's free. That is free. That's true. You know, that's not a bad, isn't it? It's like reverse marketing. Oh, he had a Kickstarter called Walking of Willoughby Hall. Yeah, we'll check. Yeah, it is a very interesting space. But here's another thing too. You could do $1 million Kickstarter and make $0. Let's face it. It doesn't mean these guys are like in the clear a lot of money. And frankly, $1 million, yeah, for Kickstarter it's big. For the RPG hobby it's big. But $1 million can be like, you could use it up pretty quickly. Maze Rats. Release pay what you want on drive-through. Yeah, give a bunch of content away for free for a couple years and cash in later. 80% of Avatar backers wanted physical books. Lots of postage costs. Yeah, you're right, Blake, for sure. Dave Beatty, Weird West, Weird Frontiers, man. He lost all kinds of money, I'm sure. Willoughby Hall Kickstarter made $13K. Was funded at $13K. We don't know how much it really made, but I know what you're saying. I'm being a kind of a smart ass. Shocker. Michael, we all know John Wick's story. Great game designer, not so good with the financials for the business. Chaosium had to swoop in and save the 7C Kickstarter. Yeah, isn't there some stories around these? Avatar even had printing problems because of the quantity of backers. Yeah, is bigger better? Is more like, well, hey, we're at 5 million. Like, at one point, do you go, oh shit, I didn't want $1 million. I wanted 600 because at 600 it's very manageable, and I know I'm gonna get, I'm not gonna get all my freight costs eaten up, right? Like, I can't imagine. Harrigan says, there was talk when Avatar was rampant that loads of people who liked the series backed it without really knowing it was an RPG. Oh, that's hilarious. What the hell is this thing? I thought it was like a picture book. Like a coffee table book. Huh? Tables? What? Playing a character? Huh? Wayne says, Ben has very successful newsletter email list. That's always good. Like, it sounds like Ben's got his proverbial shit together. Just in overall, like, obviously there's a few things firing on all cylinders, which is like, you got these companies where you've got probably like Cobalt Press, you've got Green Ronin, you've got, some of these Ghostfire games that are probably doing pretty well. But I wonder if, I'm telling you, man, I firmly believe that somebody could sit back. I'll give you an example. We talked to Alex Kammer. He's the guy that oversees Gamehole Con. He's a personal friend of mine. And we interviewed him on the show, and he's been on many, many different podcasts, talk about Gamehole Con and what's Gamehole and what a stupid name, and explains the history of it. And he talks about a convention, and it's like, he always touts that I want to run a convention. I wanted a convention. We didn't have one locally, and I want to do one that I would be super happy being an attendee. Like, that's his angle. I want to provide an experience to attendees that I would want to experience as an attendee at any game con. And he's been to probably quite a few. Gen Con frequent goer, Gary Con, North Texas Con, Origins. I don't know what other ones he's been to. He's probably a couple as a guest. Smaller ones maybe. But, we often talk about the hobby and some of the kookiness and quirkiness of the hobby. And sometimes it's like, do people want to make money in this hobby? Because if they do, they would probably do things differently, or they would just like implement something they haven't been implementing. Right. So going to Ben Milton, if he's got an email list, I mean, we had one at Gaming NBS. It's pretty small, but also BSerCon. Some people get on the mailing list. This channel, I should probably start a mailing list, because that's like, okay, here's the core people that want to know what's going on and what I want to do. And when Ben launches a product, boom, he sends it out to those people. Like, even if they're like, I'm taking a break, if they're still on the mailing list and haven't removed themselves, there's still a connection there. And it's weird because email marketing is like, again, I'm preaching, and Jason, I should switch spots with Jason because this is like his career. But it's like some of these fundamental, like even solopreneurs that are doing things outside of the RPG hobby where they're making, $1 million single-handedly, putting out courses and products and content. Some of the understanding of marketing and how to leverage some of those things is just crazy. It's just crazy. Anyways. What are these cubes for? for Avatar, right? Chris says, I bought the Dresden Files RPG books because they're great coffee table books. The game is pretty poor. Yeah. Michael, is it? Shame because the novels are so good. Yeah. You should have a newsletter. I know I should. And I should be consistent with it. Like, I'm going to try to up my game here. I need to create a mastermind group. I need to be a member of a mastermind group. I'm going to try to get one together. I pinged one guy, but one guy's like, I can do it on the weekends. And I don't know if I want to do it on the weekend. Because the weekends are like, go do family stuff. Go play games. Go take time off. Like, that's your time, weekends. Which is great, but I'd rather do it during the week when it's like meetings and day jobs and, commitments and obligations that to me are more like official. But I'm specific, and Roger was, I would highly encourage folks that are interested in masterminds to understand what it is, because they could, I don't know if it's this, it depends on like your space, right? Because corporate leaders may not be that in that space, but I think if you're trying to maybe learn something, in my case, I want to find it in the creator space. Like if you're a podcaster, streamer, or YouTuber, that's who, and are interested in taking your stuff to another level, then that's what I'm gauging. But you could have one as a writing mastermind or a RPG creator mastermind, where you're basically meeting with 4 people with a common theme, right? What probably wouldn't work is, let's say I'm focusing on streaming, podcasting, YouTubing, whatever, and somebody else is trying to grow a widget business as a solopreneur. Like, it doesn't align. It's kind of got to be in the same space. But if we have 2 solopreneurs, both in two different widget like offerings, then it would. You get 4 people and one's in the hot seat. Napoleon Hill came up with this. One is, I know a little bit because I've heard a podcast, like a couple guys that I followed in podcasting that are solopreneurs and coaches and but and very successful people. And they, one meeting, one person's in the hot seat, and they go over like their goals from the past time they were in the hot seat. Did they accomplish them? Why not? What they're trying to do and what they're thinking. And then the other people chime in and give their opinions and feedback, and good and bad, like unfiltered blah. Like, oh, you didn't do that? Well, here's your problem. You need to start doing this. Or have you thought of that? And then in the next week, somebody else is in the hot seat. And then meanwhile, you're doing, so that's the point of it. So I want to get one together, because then it also is accountability. Like, I'm not putting out any videos on this other than streaming and shorts. So, dude, how do I expect to grow? And it's not all about growth by any means, but it's like, how do you become better? Sean, you don't have a newsletter. You should probably do that. Oh, that makes sense. All right. I do have one, but not really. Chris says the email newsletter is one of the best. Sorry, I got for that tangent, guys. But some of this applies to the hobby, is my point. Like, some of these guys. Chris says, I've never understood why we don't work together in some way, Sean. That's fair. All right, Chris. I got you. I'll put you on my list. All right, let's, what else? Continuing on. What am I going to get? What am I pulling up? Did that. Yeah, not going to. So RBG print news for Yen World was pretty, like, I had an appreciation for what they did this week, but I don't think anybody else will really care, because we've already talked about this. I think Charles, who put out the article, he just listed Free League's sale. So there it is. I don't want to go into detail and spend a lot of time on it, because I brought it up on the Discord. I brought it up last week in streaming. So to me, it's not really, it's a promotion. Print news. There you go. Little light on the print news this week at EN World. Let's get to Kickstarters. We'll point this one out. Who's kicked in on this? Christian, you know which one I'm going to show? Yeah, he does. Savage Worlds, baby! Savage. Fast, furious, and fun. $93,000 to $6K. Now, I did not get in on this because I think I have the box set. I moved it. It's over there. From when Suede came out. So I think I have a lot of these. Like I have the roll of chips, punch outs, the core game, the fall leather version, and the regular version. But I am missing some of the supplements. But I don't. It's like like I said this. It's like one of those cool games that I don't play nearly enough at all. What's up, CJ? CJ, he's kind of sitting in the weeds a little bit, and then booyah, Savage Worlds, raw! Oh yeah. Michael says, I'm all in on this one. I didn't even think about it. Just scroll to the bottom and click the biggest one. Bam. Mic drop. Click. Zip, 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 zip. Click, click. Done. I know CJ's a fan, yeah. So I was going to get in on this, but I don't know if it would benefit me. Like, I think I have most of the things except for some of the supplements, but there isn't really any supplements in this thing, is it? Savage World 2023. Is it all these? Original settings? Is this all offered? Original settings include this, and this. If you're new, or is this just like pimping this, saying like, this is why you should get it? Introducing fifth printing. Yep, got it. Core rules. We include the latest updates. Fifth printing was only a handful of changes. Okay. All available right here for free. Okay. So like I don't have the fantasy compendium. I don't know what other compendium. Supers. I don't have the supers compendium. And I looked at the pledges and I'm like, okay, so player's book is $15. Digital player's book cover variant, because I think each one of these is a different cover, right? I do like the one with the question mark for some reason. Yeah, these are all variant covers, which are very cool. They're trying to are they taking a lesson from DCC? Christian, tell me, is Shane looking at like, how do these DCC people just keep buying 5 different books and it's all the same? Like they just get different covers. What? I'm missing out. All the powers got updated based on the Fantasy Companion. Okay. Christian says, we already have 2 original boxes. We're just in for a copy of the player's book and the stretch goals. Okay. This is a celebration of the anniversary and an easy on-ramp for new players. Chris says, I'm curious as to what will bring Savage World back into the forefront of gaming. I remember all the hype around Flash Gordon, and it only did 100K. I'll tell you what, Harry brought it to my attention, like where there's like 40 Savage Worlds games at GameholeCon, and we were talking about it because I told him that Savage Worlds wasn't a huge presence, and this year, like, and I say that in like Madison. Now, I'm probably out of the loop on that, but an old friend of mine was doing 70. Okay, sorry, 70 plus. That's a lot. But Shane's coming, Carl Kiesler's coming, a few others. And the Savage Worlds Alliance, I have to find out if my buddy Brian is running that, because he was in the dot group with us, and then he's just like, I want to run Savage Worlds, and he ran it for us. I wasn't there, but he ran it for the group a couple times. The group was kind of lukewarm on Savage Worlds, and then he's like, I'm going to go run Savage Worlds, all kinds of stuff. And that's what he did, and he left. And then I think he started running at game stores, if I'm not mistaken, and then he just started getting more people that likes and appreciate Savage Worlds. So I think he's the one that's kind of driving that at GameholeCon. Not the only one by any means, but that might be the Savage Alliance that's going on. The Adventure Edition Pathfinder for Savage Worlds Kickstarters did really well. They did indeed. So yeah, I'm not going to get on this because I don't need all the alternative covers, but very cool. Definitely Savage Worlds fans can flock to this thing. But yeah, choose. $150 gets you all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different covers. Card box, accessory box, stretch goals. There you go. It's another one, Savage Worlds, right? Should probably include Savage Worlds and all the other PBTA, Blades, and Forged in the Dark. Sorry, Sheen. Sorry, Pinnacle. Let me see. I think that's it. I think it's crowdfunding. It's crowdfunding. Crowdfunding. Triangle Agency, the tabletop role-playing game from Haunted Table Games. Original system core rulebook, $90 is the most popular pledge. Do you need an RPG with work-life balance mechanics? Many modern-day RPGs assume a movie TV style of work-life balance of all work because saving the world. Characters can ignore the need to connect with family, friends, pay bills, or cut the grass. In this RPG, you're a part of an SCP-style, Men in Black-style mega corporation that finds paranormal beings and instances of supernatural and deals with them. You have powers, but you also have a life. Yeah, good for them. $250,000. Booyah, Grandpa! 5 days to go. RPG Squeeze plush. Dungeon Crawl Critters. I just picture like somebody going on a date and they're asked back to their apartment and you see all these in the bedroom. It's funny. Anyways, moving on. Loot of the booty. Loot the booty, not the body. Lot the body. Just kidding. Loot the body. 2,000. No, not 1,000. Strike through. 2,000 plus items for any TTRPG, which is 5e compatible. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Can you have both? 2,000 plus items for any TTRPG, 5e compatible. What's going on here? It's system D&D 5th edition, but really system neutral. Oh, okay. Anyways, three pounds for the PDF of the book. And they blew it out of the water. Like a 45-pound goal. Come on. 45-pound goal. And it made 10 grand or 10,000 pounds. That's a 23,000% over goal. Swords of Meropis. Meropui? Sword and sandal role playing. I gotta be sandals. Core rulebook, Gallant Knight Games. Gallant Knight puts out some stuff, right? Original system, $10 for the PDF and POD discount coupon from Alan Barr and Rick Hershey. Comes a second Greek mythology-inspired RPG. The first was SYMA. This sword and sandals RPG uses a D12 plus another die system to determine outcomes. So primary die is the D12. The second varies based on the skills. There's a static chart to compare the results to. Ooh. With class options to build out your abilities, the core book features rules and setting details for adventures in a Greek-inspired world and underworld. As soon as you back, there's a preview of the rules in the first update. Funded. Streets of Peril. Broken Blade Games. Streets of Peril. Perilous D6 system. Core rulebook. The Perilous D6 is free at DriveThruRPG. Nice. So that must be like the kind of primer, like quick start. The RPG brings the Renaissance to your gaming table with a unique system, complete with magic, monsters, and missions. This is a world of danger and intrigue. Danger and intrigue? No, I'm out. I want a world of comfort and solitude. But they had me at world. The system uses color D6 dice pools where some colors succeed on a 4 or more, some on a 3 or more, some on a 2 or more. I post this thing? Post it in the chat. Chat. The creator is like, will work for beer, bruh. Bruv. Funded. Overlooked creators of the backwoods. What? Wait a minute. I know that art. What? That's stolen. I think I have this background. Forbidden Landers. I wonder. Did I show? Is this? Oh, I'd have to double check. Google search for sure. Do it, because I think I used it in a game. Now, I didn't stream it, right? So, or did I? No, I think I recorded it and never put it out. So it was my game. This is a Portal, the Glade. I think that, no, oh, it's very similar to that picture. Anyways, Overlooked Creatures of the Backwoods 5e Bestiary from Nat 1 Games. It's a 5th edition source booklet for $4 for the PDF of the booklet. It's funded. This is a book for odd monsters, tiny or small 5e creatures that exist in fantasy forests. Their examples are the zombie flying squirrel, the devil-eyed arachnid, Draro slug, lily bass, and more. Yeah, Sherwood. The Legend of Robin Hood 5e from Battlefield Press. It's on Indiegogo. Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition source book, $40 shipping and handling. If you like Robin Hood. Great. Based on Jonathan Thompson's 2007 Savage Worlds and 2016 Pathfinder 1E offerings, this version updates the rules to 5e. So it's been done before to these guys, it sounds like. They're just doing it for 5th. As one of the last projects Jonathan completed before his passing, his brother Adam is bringing this project to the world as a tribute to his brother. This Battlefield Press, yes, we talked about that, I think, a few weeks ago. Loke, Battle Mats, Immense Dungeons. Digital maps for discerning game masters. D&D 5th edition? Does it have to be D&D 5th edition? Like, what makes this a D&D 5th edition battle map? $30 for the digital maps, tiles, tokens. Oh, there's a 5e adventure and more. Campaigns for VTT maps for Roll20 and other online. Really? They got to be for Roll20? Or other online platforms. They participated in an RPG day with an adventure in maps called Heist at the Museum. $26,000. That's it for crowdfunding. That's it. So, like, some 5es, but not, like, it's what, 50-50 here, I think? Right? 1, 2, kind of, 2, 3. That doesn't count. So 3 out of, I don't know, what do we got, 6 here? Yeah, there you go. There you go. So yeah. If you know of anybody that's run West Marches, that is a podcaster, YouTuber, streamer, I'm interested in talking to them. I want to pick their brain, if you will. I think I got a couple lined up. I have to reach out to a few others. I've got a list of about 5 or 6 people. So, Ty, where you been, man? You just showing up now? 99% 5e, 5e like. What? What are you talking about? Ty. Well, you must be happy then. Because I know Ty is a huge 5e gamer. Like, that guy, I think I've seen him like creeping behind some of the Wizards of the Coast videos, like lurking in the background. So I'm interested in talking to them. I got 1 or 2 lined up, I think. See how that goes. Because I think like running a West Marches game may be a thing. I put it out there a little bit. I mentioned it last week. But it is no joke. It is no joke. You cannot see beyond 5e. No. Why would I? Why would I, Ty? I don't understand. That yeah, no kidding. The dagger to assassinate someone. Yeah, something like that. Been making notes. I looked at 5 Torches Deep. Interesting game. Nola Burt, big fan of 5 Torches Deep. He was he was on our Discord for a while on Twitter. But a lot of moving parts, I think. A much bigger endeavor that some people might like. I'm like, oh, it's probably fairly straightforward. We talked about it on the show a little bit, but I think like armchair quarterbacking West Marches a lot different than actually executing on it. Lots of things to like, and that's what I want to learn from these guys is like, you talked about it probably at some point, then you implemented like Stu from Vintage RPG, Stu Horvath. Like, I want to hit him up and say, hey, I know you're running it for your patrons. Like, tell me a little bit about how you're doing it and what, some of the pitfalls and what you didn't plan for and why did you take the approach that you did. So I'm trying to pick their brains so that if I run a West Marches game, it can go as smoothly as possible. But it's like, do you do deity? Like, who are the deities? What's the character creation rules? Is there any home house rules? Is like, what system are you using? Chris Shorb's helped out too. He's mentioned a couple things on the Discord, like, well, what about downtime? Is there a place? Where do you do it? Where do you organize? Where do you muster? Where's the conversation outside of the game? What's the schedule look like? Availability and, on and on and on and on. Outside of even just putting certain points out there for people to look at. So it's an interesting thing. I've always wanted to do it. We're like, where is this coming from? And I always wanted to do it. It's always been in the back of my mind because I think the concept is super interesting to me. It's different. It's a different approach to play. And I would play like Star Trek Adventures is an interesting one because you could have an entire ship and you can make it like kind of an open table, but it doesn't facilitate well for a West Marches style game. Because one of the things I'm considering for West Marches is, okay, here's a game calendar, if you will. And of course the thing is, okay, they have to go out and back is kind of ideal in one single session. It's not like they go out and then, oh, we didn't finish the adventure. So okay, next week they play or they don't play, or they play and they want to use the same character, but that character's out. How like having things in sync, if you will, within the game world is something I'm really wanting to better understand and how to manage. Where Star Trek Adventures sets up a way to have a lot of people in a central location. Like, okay, in West Marches, you have a tavern where everybody comes back and talks about the tales and outlines the map and some of the things they've located, and they have to share it. I don't know. My point is that I think the fantasy exploration piece is the thing about West Marches and you could do it in space as exploration, but the vehicle literally that you that makes that happen is some of the drawbacks. Planet of the Week as a Star Trek West Marches approach. Yeah. The reason I'm thinking of Star Trek is because I'm like, sometimes I'm a little not in the fantasy headspace sometimes. But fantasy headspace is kind of, I mean, like chocolate and peanut butter, if you like it. They go great together. Where Star Trek, I'm trying to think, like, could you do a West Marches game in a different genre other than fantasy or swords and sorcery? And many would say, yes, you can, Sean. Of course you can. You can, yes, but does it work as smoothly? Can it be managed easily? I mean, you could easily do exploring a planet, and then the away team is that one scenario. And the nice thing is there's no travel. They just beam up. But I also think that some of the things that Star Trek may run into isn't necessarily, I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too much. I don't know. Dude, you're just, no, you're overthinking it. For probably. Tad, Star Wars, come back to Cantina to report back. Yeah, see, but Star Wars to me is not exploration. That, I think, is the key of the West Marches game. Post-apocalyptic? Maybe. Could I do, like, maybe The Walking Dead, for example, and say, oh, it's like a West Marches style Walking Dead game? But I don't, maybe? That could work. I think the drawback to doing it in science fiction, how would you do it? Yeah, see, like, I did an approach like that with a fantasy airship, CJ said. Yeah. I mean, I know, look, here's the deal. Of course you can do it. Like, nobody's saying, it's like one of those things. The gaming police aren't going to come and arrest me. And it's not somebody here that's going to say, Sean, you cannot do West Marches in that type of game. No. Of course, everybody's going to go, sure. But do some of them, like, is fantasy the best one to facilitate it? In my opinion, at first glance, would be yes. If I did it in Star Trek, or like, what would I do it? Not Alien. Like, could it be done Worlds Without Number? Maybe. It's like a bigger ship, but it's still ship-based. So how would that work? Are you exploring a planet? It could be. But I don't know if in science fiction, I don't know. I'm overthinking it. Gamma World? Maybe. But West March is about pick up and play. Well, it is, but it's up to the players. Like, that's kind of the deal. So treat star bases as cities would be in a fantasy. I guess you could say, hey, there's a pool of ships and you work for a corp and it's all about exploration, and you could have faster than light. So you eliminate you're out and you don't come back. 5 Torches Deep, which is interesting because I was listening to a podcast. It was literally like 5 episodes, and each episode was like 15 minutes. But it was a gentleman, his name escapes me. Well, I'll give him a shout out. It's not active right now, but I thought it was pretty interesting. I think he was just like sharing his experiences with putting in setting up a West Marches game. And I thought, what? Did I not? Maybe I deleted it because it was done? Probably. I think that's the case. Yeah, it's not in my catcher anymore. But one of the things he had said, and I think he mentioned 5 Torches Deep specifically because it actually has a mechanic that says, the return, I think it's called. Harrigan knows this. The return, I don't remember what it is. But anyways, if you're returning back to the place, you roll on a table, and then based on the results, you lose loot, you come back injured, or you come back unscathed, or whatever. So it kind of meta and just sums up the journey back. anything with sector plan exploration. So going back to what I was saying, you could have that kind of setup, and then you'd get a group of people, and then they like you could, hey, there's space junk there. Or maybe it's like you're out on a patrol, or you're the Space Corp has tasks to do like you would have in a fantasy village that says, hey, this is out there and that's out there. And we need people to go and check this out or rescue somebody or whatever. And we thought little Johnny went out beyond the hills. You could all move that over into the space genre, science fiction. So yes, it could work. I don't know if I would do it Star Trek wise, because I think there's something to be said about having a ship. It's a little bit different because the people are tied to a single ship, where if you had like a spaceport and many different people, characters, have access to all the different ships to go out and go in different directions based on what the Corp might want you to do or what other parties may find. Could be, but what would I use? What system, right? Mothership? I don't know. Starship Warden style setting is a West Marches setting. Could be CJ. Savage Worlds Last Parsec. Could be. I've got Last Parsec. But it's not updated for Suede, I don't think. Unless there's like an addendum or a different one. Mothership, Nubis says, wasn't that part of Last Parsec Prison World? Maybe. I could be wrong. I don't know. I didn't read it. But I think I have it. Just making sure my wife didn't text me. Why not have your ship be more land-based, like an RV-style large transport? Sure, absolutely, Ty. You could do that. I could do that. But then it's on the planet, right? Is that kind of what you're saying? Like Space, maybe 1999, the new one on Netflix. That was kind of cool. But then it's like single planet. I don't. Yeah. Yeah, the only reason I'm kind of mulling that specifically, Ty, is if I have them, like, say they're a Land Rover, a base on a planet, and they're there to research the planet, and they go out and check it out, and yes, there is a West Marches piece, of course. They come across different creatures, different things in the wild, and come back and report. The only thing with, I don't know, it could certainly work for sure. But I think one of my hesitations is if you're going to make it such a very analog similarity of fantasy, then just do it in fantasy. I'm overthinking this. I'm totally overthinking this. Ty, that's not a bad idea. Harrigan says, anything with sector plan exploration, and he continues, because it's important to end every session back at base, you don't stay in the field. Yes. Starbase Omega, explore the Zeta Quadrant. That's never been explored. That would be it, yes. See you, Christian. Thanks for stopping by, man. Good to see you. Have a great weekend. Large transport, like Ty said. Distress calls, survey a planet, gather some resources, investigate an anomaly, plan a marker on a planet. Yeah. This is a great tangent. Sometimes I come up with one, Tad. Number of systems could work. Yeah, see, this is why I want to talk to like West Marches people, because I want to like run these things. Like, well, then why'd you do it in fantasy? How come you didn't do it in space? Could you do it in space? Why wouldn't you do it in space? CJ says RV caravan setting, just like a group of roving modern nomads going town to town doing weird stuff. Battlestar Galactica, hey-o. Right? Battlestar? BSG? Searching for the long-lost planet known as Earth. If you have a movable ship, then the ship can explore, and what's the purpose of the ship? Well, it would be to get there, right? And then back. Could use Genesis. Could use Traveler. Maybe. For sci-fi, I like something along the lines of exploring the other side of a wormhole. You can only stay so long and have to return to refuel, restock, etc. Yeah. Well, I put some limitations in it, right? Not all ships you can like, and I'm not talking about like, oh, you're on a ship and then you just live there. No, I'm like, it's smaller, very limited resources there and back. If the base moves, the game isn't exactly about exploration, right? Yes, I wouldn't have a base move. It would be starbase, and the starbase doesn't move. It's always in orbit. It's too big, takes forever. Bam. It's stationary. Sounds more like Hexcrawl. Ty, familiar with West Marches, buddy? Isaiah, here's Christian. What's going on? Got him to come out of the weeds. See, I just need to hit the right button. Stargate type transport? Maybe. Tad says CJ is basically describing ultraviolet grasslands, which is something I'm not overly familiar with. Maybe that's the way, maybe? Arrogant says exactly. Yeah, Troika? Troika does it too, right? Is Troika, like I didn't know much about Troika. And then there's, I don't know much about Troika at all. And then I read some, like, it's funny. Troika. Trophy gold, trophy. And then it's like, what is this? What are these things? And I think I found something where it's like, hey, this thing's doing this, and they're the bankers of Troika, and Troika is like this game. And I'm like, oh, thank you for summing that up in an article, because not everybody that reads Dicebreaker or whatever knows what Troika is. CJ says, Chris, couldn't you argue with the two can be combined? Your ship could be part of that week's exploration, or just the vessel for getting the week's game. Yeah. Wayne says, slow colony ship gets to program system. You're the crew that's supposed to start the colony. Nubis, big UVG caravan would be really interesting. Ty says, sounds like Stargate Universal has set time to get resources and info before the ship leaves you behind. Sure. Tarragon, by default, Troika is certainly not aimed at West Marches or even exploration. Oh, it's not? Okay, there's my shortcoming. CJ, I was thinking more of a version of the Nomad Land movie as an RPG, but yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. I don't know. Something I haven't considered. I think there is an element, science fiction. It's the unknown, and it's the vast, like, it's got to be exploration based. That's what it's not necessarily true, but it's, whether there's exploration, it helps, right? It's usually exploration, or some people call points of light. But in space, you could, for Red Planet, one of the games I was going to run for Mothership, which was kind of going to be longer term till it kind of fizzled, was I started out the player group on part of a capital ship. Slow moving, going through space. I think they were looking to colonize or something like that. Maybe that was the premise. I gotta reach back in my brain. And the player character, they came across the planet, Red Planet, and I put the characters onto a shuttle to investigate the planet. And that's how Red Planet, the adventure, kicked off. And then they made it back to the capital ship, and then it just kind of ended, because I think the game wasn't going to go on past that. It really was intended to be like a short run. But then they would come back, get on the capital ship, and then move on to the next one. That's an option. But then remember, the point of West Marches is each session is driven by the players on where they want to go. That I don't like. See, there might be something where if I'm going, hey, the next planet is over here, we need to send you there. It's very much the game master driving that. If it's true to be West Marches style, or in the spirit, I will say, of West Marches, then you have to kind of have a home base or home ship, if you will, and then these different avenues that the players decide on where they go. And the players come to the game master and say, we want to go to this place that's affectionately known as Terraform 5 or whatever, P2561. That's the name of the planetary entity that nobody's been to. And then they go there one session and they come back. And then they tell the rest, and they put the information in the database, and that's there. And whatever happened, they can log as well. And then if somebody else wants to go to the same planet, they have the information from the previous party. Mix, repeat. And in West Marches, again, I haven't run it, and I want to talk to a lot more people because I think it can be a very interesting, lots of different moving parts. In West Marches, a lot of it is balance be damned. But if I were to run a West Marches game, I thought of like concentric circles around the village, or at least half the village forward, where if the party ventures this far, there may not be a dragon. Okay. They venture this far, stuff might get a little more interesting. And then if they venture this far, there's a dragon. So what I'm saying is that as the further they go out, the crazier things that they run into, which would make sense because would the crazier things be closer to the village? Maybe not. As you get more out into the unknown. You could do that with space as well. And with FTL in smaller ships. But there's some rules that I would have to implement in my brain to make that happen. Like, hey, you're going to land on this planet. It's got a weird atmosphere. Give me a pilot check. Oh, you failed. Oh, you crashed the ship. Oh, you're stranded. Like that can't happen. So it's got to be just anytime you go there, it just you arrive. No problem. It's good to go. It's kind of like locking the door to a thing that the party needs. Just keep the door unlocked. So I think it's some of those little frickin' nuances and intricacies. You gotta kind of know those deets. Yeah. Those are different things. Points of light is like an overlay. Yeah, and maybe I'm putting too much into points of light because I think you're right. I mean, I know you're right, but I think kind of in my brain, what I equate to like, and when I'm using the wrong term, but putting things out there for players to know about, whether they're rumors or they can physically see them from a distance, like giving them objectives, potential objectives, right? So it's not points of light necessarily, but I don't even know what you want to call them. So when you talk about West Marches, we're talking 10 plus players that rotate in. Yes, man. Yes, for sure. Right now I got 10 players on the Discord that are interested. I would say 5 might be maybe consistent. Like, I don't even know what the percentage looks like because it's also some would say it's a drop in, drop out game, which it is kind of. Like, I'm talking to Hobbs about his because he runs much more drop in, drop out kind of West Marches. That's the question. Is there a difference between drop in, drop out and a West Marches game? Or is it drop in, drop out is a component of a West March, of what makes a West Marches game a West Marches game? So yes, it is big. I mean, it could be 20 people. I could put a cap on 20 people. I'll never have 20 people, but I could put a cap on 20 people. It's going to offer it to patrons for sure. And then it's up to the players to drive that. And it would be, what do they call them? Expeditions. So they just like, we're going to put an expedition together. Right. The charm is in the reports on how group of the week hears about X or Y and group next week hears about Z, which leads further into X. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yes. That's why the West Marches, like, Sean, where's this coming from? You're talking about like this game and that game and war stories. And now you're talking about West Marches. What the hell, dude? Like Delta Green, you're running and this and that. But can I get 10 or 20 people that are excited about play And there is something to be said about the lifting being kind of the weight kind of lifted off of the game master. But at the same time, you kind of got to kind of know what's going on in the world, and you got to keep track of shit. But it's really the players that drive it. Like, they get together, they muster, they talk about what they've come across, and they share those things, and that's important, right? There's no coveting of information. It's all open book, all shared. There's that intention of the game. And then they get together and they say, I want to go check that out. In Wes March's style, if you're running like a level-based game, any type of D&D derivative level-based game, then you could have multiple characters, which I'm totally fine with. That would be another thing, is like, yeah, have a stable of 5 characters. I don't care. As long as and one of the things was, well, they have to come back in one session. That's the goal. There and back, done. Sure, but what if they don't come back? Could I keep track of that? And then, oh, by the way, if that player wants to play in the next session, they can't use that same character. Also, as they may use one character over and over, like, they may have a reason to use them because they want them to level up. Like, I want a pretty badass fighter. Like, this is my main guy. So I'm going to keep going. Like, hey, I got a 3rd level guy. You got a first. Like, I don't care if that that's meta gaming and converse. Like, that's part of the deal, I think, for Wes Marches. If everybody's sitting there and comparing, like, we should really get a cleric. Does anybody have a cleric? Well, I can roll one up and I'll play one. Okay, that sounds great. Super. But literally, once they have all their proverbial shit together, coming to the game master and saying, all right, Sean, we have 4 guys, and guys, girls, whatever, people, players, and we want to go and explore this. So, and I would have to put out my availability on many different times, like in schedules, which may be an interesting one, because I can't always just run on Wednesday nights. Because if I only run on Wednesday nights or a certain night, these hours and certain, then I'm going to exclude potentially half or more, because people are like, I can't game on Wednesday nights, Sean. It's the only time you run your game. Oof, it's not a small, but if they come to me and they say, hey, we're going to create an expedition to this planet, if we use the space or whatever, and we're going to do it, the next session, all of us Wednesday night, we want to go to that. And I can go, oh, great. I already know. Okay. I either don't have it fleshed out or I do, but now I know where they're going. There's no surprises. I got to have a couple things ready, and then it's off to the races. A couple animals, beasties, whatever, things that they may run into. Boom, bam, bing. Maps, handouts, I don't know. And once I do it for that spot, it's done. I don't know. Nelson says, I would be, skipped here. Nelson says, I would be interested in a space game. I don't think I've played in a science fiction RPG yet. Star Trek is probably great for Wes Marches. Every session explores a new place. Yeah. Whatever structure you want to use on top of that is up to you, based on rumors, points of interest, whatever gets characters to make a choice to do something. Yep. CJ, now I want to run a game starting with Wayne's colony ship premise. The players are short-term clones of the crew in long-term storage, trying to find resources and habitable space. Yeah, there's something there for sure. That was the premise of the mothership game I was going to run. Not really. Kinda. My mothership game was going to be much more traditional. You're on a colony ship. You're in and it's sponsored by a corporation, and you're going out to the nether reaches of space beyond. And I don't know if I had FTL. I think it was like very slow moving, because FTL would be like, oh, we're just zip over there and zip over there and zip over there. But they would have these smaller ships that would launch off of it. And they would go and explore the planet and they would return. But I could have stuff go on the spaceship, on the colony ship. West Marches, no, nothing goes on the colony ship. You could, but it's not West Marches style. Then it's like, well, then you're getting into, some other nuances. I don't know. A lot of things to mull over. If you did that as part of the scenario, then you have to give them a way to get back, or just say they're gonna gone and those characters are out of the game. Crash ship example. Yes. Yeah. Why not have the Texan crash when then the mission is a race against the clock to get back to be a chase back to the mothership? Yes. Supposed to be a drop-in, drop-out game. Yes, that's part of the West Marches. Yep. If you don't have that, then you don't have that interplay between the players. Right. Exactly. You might need a separate channel to have a player across. There's in this other individual went through, like, I set up a Discord and here's the channels and this is the purpose of them. Like, there is, to have your proverbial shit together kind of as much as you can, there's a lot to consider. That's why I want to talk to these guys. So I don't have to make the same mistakes. Or I can say, it's kind of silly. I don't know if I want to do that way, but okay. Then you get wacky and let someone else run sessions inside your West Marches game, so you have the multiple GMs and multiple players, which isn't a bad idea, but I don't know. That might be interesting. I don't know. So game is set for every other week, 5 p.m. PST. It is now set in my calendar. Good to know. I can count on you, Ty. Mark's Genre Mixer. Good to see you, Mark. I think 5 Torches Deeps has a couple of rules to deal with your problem. There is a mechanic that you roll on your PC's damage, getting lost, etc., based on how far out they are from the central hub. Yeah, Harrigan's told me, and he says it probably later, that there is an emphasis on that game for Hexcrawl, which is an exploration. Yeah. So thank you, Mark. Yeah, that's really why I started looking at it. And I read the mobile version, which is like one page has like 5 letters on it, or one paragraph. And it was talking about like the spirit and tone of this game. Like, this is the game. And I like a lot of what it has to say. I didn't give Noel Bird enough credit. But frankly, I was in a point where it's like, okay, well, what's that versus Beyond the Wall or Knave or DCC or Swords and Wizardry or Labyrinth Lord, or like just on and on and on and on and on. But that 5 Torches Deep, even if I don't use the rule system natively, I would want to use those tables that you're referring to for sure. See you, Chris. Thanks for stopping in, buddy. See ya. Got my wheels turning about something. Yeah, man. Always here to get wheels turning. got your schedule tied. Thanks, buddy. Arian says Ben wrote 5 Torches Deep with WM, West Marches, and Hexcrawl exploration in mind. Yep. Thanks, Chris. Beyond the Wall could be used, could be turned to drive a great West Marches game. Okay, good to know. Like, that's another thing I want to ask. Like, here's the problem, though. Some of the West Marches, I did like a search podcast, West Marches, a lot of 5e games. Like, I don't want to do 5e necessarily. No, it's not the type of game I want to run. You can, nothing wrong with it. It's just, I don't want to talk to a bunch of 5e people that have run West Marches. I mean, I do just a couple here and there, just because I think it can be, I'd want to separate the West Marches from the system. But there's going to be, there's a question I want to know is there a system that facilitates it better than others? Why did you choose the system that you did? Well, I used 5 Torches Deep because it has this specific thing that's really awesome. It's slimmed down. Blah, blah, blah. Beyond the Wall was really great. It does this, blah, 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 right? Forbidden Lands, I know somebody who's used the map for Forbidden Lands. Space has an interesting concept to it because it's space, and it's like anything goes, unexplored. The time of when it occurs doesn't have to be relevant. Like, I could use Stars Without Number, Traveler, Last Parsec, Savage Worlds, whatever, part of me is like, I don't think Star Trek would be the way to go. I don't know. It's got to fit into a single session. So it's got to be like, you're there. Like you get in your ship and you're there. Right? You land. Okay, you get out. And then it very becomes, and since it's then at that point it becomes very land-based. Or even like they investigate and abandon long lost structure floating in space. It's not man-made, whatever that is. And it's big. How'd it get there? Who's behind it? Go back, report. Somebody else goes in there. They go deeper diver into whatever. In space, there's a couple themes, right? Like danger, right? Where West Marches is danger, it's usually danger based on monsters. Bandits, maybe. What is the danger that a fantasy group runs into versus what a space group might run into? Horror, scary things. You can get those in a West Marches, but I don't find, space is dark. Oxygen, right? Like that could be the limiting factor on everything. You have to get back. You're going to run out of oxygen, period. You're going to run out of food. West Marches, same thing, but you're not going to run out of oxygen. Feasibly, West Marches is probably worse for a fantasy type game because you legit could just go out, survive. West Marches in a space-based game is like you have no choice to leave at hour number 3 in the session because if you don't, you will die. Peril in the environment, yeah. There's a big group at work who's been doing West Marches using Pathfinder 1E for years, mostly because that's what everyone was playing when they started. Yeah, that's fine. Lou says 1d6 chance of transporter malfunction. Right? Could be, yeah. Harrigan, resource shortages, routes getting cut off. Yes. Danger versus environment. Yeah. It's resources are always a big one. Easy. Because if you're a West Marches fantasy, we're gonna go out. That's our goal. And if of course the premise is at the end of every session, you're always gonna end up back at the tavern. But you don't really have a reason. In game. If you're with a party, you probably got people that can hunt and fish, that can kill something, and then you camp. It can be an expedition, like grand expedition. Space, you as a game master just limit it. How do you limit it, Sean? Hey man, this shuttle, this is the max range. Period. End of discussion. Now, as the campaign develops, you could get a different shuttle. They just released Model 2. It's got an FTL drive. It can only go this far before you expend all its energy. Back, right? Space might be the way to go. But I'll say this. There are probably a epic shit ton. Okay, shit ton's a lot. That's like beyond metric ton of resources for West Marches. Fantasy. Tables. Tome of Adventure Design. Yeah. So space. I suppose I could use some of those tables, but, is there a one-to-one crossover? Probably some futzing. Telling you, man, part of me wants to do just a modern non-fantasy podcast. Just talking about anything but fantasy. Anything but fantasy. Down to, space, science fiction, space opera, espionage, like alternate timelines, time travel, Hollow Earth. Some of it gets into a little bit of fantasy, but no fantasy. Like some of that would be way to go. Nelson says, I don't believe West Marches requires you to focus on travel to and from. No, it doesn't. You have a starting location with a lot of unknown around you. Why is that getting caught up? That's getting cut off. Oh, why is your get? That is weird. Cut off my own. There's a. Interesting. Oh, I got emotes. That's why. Look at that. I can do that. Doesn't. Anyway, I don't believe West Marches require you to focus on travel to and from. You have a starting location with a lot of unknown around you. Travel can be hand waved. Yes, it is. But I want to make it make sense, kind of, right? Like, why do they always have to go back? And it is. You're very accurate. And I wouldn't want the journey there in a space game to be a fact. Like, oh, you run into an asteroid belt and your ship is damaged. Oh, you have to So even like, you can play a pilot, but you're not gonna do a lot of skill rolls for piloting. Because if you are, then there's risks of damage or risks of consequences that could foil that travel piece. So like you're there. However, if you want to build a pilot in case you find another spacecraft, maybe then you want to try to jumpstart it or pilot it or move it. I like the idea of a near future sci-fi, not a ton of transporters and light speed, but rather oxygen tracking, solar exposure, etc. Yeah, radiation. Like you could even say, we've tracked this entity for a while, and every so many days or so many hours, there's a solar flare, and our ships aren't equipped to withstand the radiation, so you have to leave. And that's not part of the game. Like, you're going to your point, Nelson, the travel isn't necessarily the part of the game. I would remove that. Yep, you're there. Boom. Oh, you want to leave? Boom, you left. You're back to the mothership. Great. Boom, finished. It's once you get to where you're going, what's going on. For sure. Tad, same here, Lou. Maybe time to try the Expanse RPG. Gabe, I think Star Trek would be fine, actually. I was waiting for you to chime in, Gabe. Just Star Trek Away Team, the game. Every session begins in the transporter room. Yeah. I think the biggest reason I'm shying away from Star Trek, me personally, is because there are interesting nuances about that game. And I don't know if I could do it in a single session. I mean, watch any of Strange Worlds. I'm a classic guy too. So, I mean, not that the next generation doesn't have its merits, but I'm running or watching some of the classic ones. Can you do any of those classic types of scenarios in a 1-session game, like a 3-hour? I don't know if I can even run 4. That might be a stretch. I'm running close to 3 hours now. If we get online, start, and then stop. But sometimes there's banter in the beginning, so maybe 2.5. But I don't know. Then I have a mission ready. I do. I know, man. Or tables to drive the scenario exploration. Yeah. It says you can make the near future exploration system and call it see, this is mastermind. This is mastermind, right? Here's my problems, guys. And you're like, dude, try this, try that. You know what you could do? Like, this is like all this flinging things around helps. Isaiah Aries Christian says you can make the near future exploration system and call it 502 tanks deep. True. It's his own fault thing. Oh, it's his own thing. Fault. Haha. 502 deep. Perfect abbreviation. There we go. I could just rip out all the mechanics out of Five Torches Deep and call it 502D and put it out as a space equivalent. I would do that. I'd do it for free. Make them space archetypes. That game would not be hard to hack. That would not be hard to hack. I should, who did that? It wasn't Ben Milton, though. I think he contributed, but I don't think he did the game. I like it. I like it, Lou. I like it, Isaiah. Yeah. Ben Dutter. Got it. Okay. I think Ben Milton did consult on it, though, I think I saw his name in the credits. Yeah. 502 tanks deep. Got it. Thanks, Harrigan. Yeah. Worth it for the reaction. Totally. For sure, man. I like it, man. I like it. Ty Prunty says, The Q. Space opera versus hard science. With space opera, you can hand wave a lot of stuff. Yeah. It is definitely going to be let me tell you the tone of the game. Like, here's the tech levels. Here's the ships and how they move. Like, is it faster than light? Why isn't it further? What are the limitations? Like that, you're right, Ty. It's got to be very firmly established, which is it's part of the starting dock, right? Another thing that would probably not be as important when you're running fantasy necessarily. I mean, I think in this type of campaign, if you do space, I think we all know what a fantasy world looks like. We've all kind of, I've read books and played in D&D for 20 years and, done different fantasy games. We all know like what that looks like. Swords, magic, things, right? Like monsters, gold, treasure. There is a box. Things can kind of make the box grow or, morph here and there. With space, you're right. Star Wars is different than Foundations versus, 2001 Space Odyssey or, insert Alien or what, like they're all kind of different, but you can steal from each one of them, right? But the players have to know what that looks like. Well, is this thing like a supercomputer? Like I could just have this in my pocket all the time and I could just call across the world, like call across the galaxy? Or is there a limit to the range, and do I get laser swords or is it, no oxygen in space does not allow for flames, da-da-da. Harrigan says, I built all this out for sci-fi recently, Sean, using off-worlders as a base. Let's talk soon. I will only say that not every player likes exploration and resource management. Nope. But I don't think that's West Marches. It wouldn't be, I would do everything as much as possible, as true as possible to West Marches, which is not resource-based. So I would do the same thing in a space science fiction game. I would just say that you just have limitations because of this. That's why you always have to come back and forth. You wouldn't have to manage it. Five Torches Deep, I'm not sure how much it gets into that. But I wouldn't like being more in the narrative spirit of things, maybe. Like, hey, your oxygen or you ran out of torches. They're all wet. I don't know, as part of the narrative and not as a micromanage system resources game. Because the focus would be on the exploration piece and then coming back, reporting on it and people wanting to go, hey, that sounds cool. We should go and check that out. So it's almost like I got to have a base. Maybe it's on a planet. I don't care. Planet, base, space, orbital space station. it doesn't move. It hasn't moved. It's not supposed to move. And when you leave, you go and check something out, and then you come back. And the thing is, it could be like, we're going to go check out this one planet that's over there, or this moon. That thing's not going anywhere. And how much can you actually explore? Because one planet could be it's like like that's the whole campaign. It's exploring one planet. But then it takes kind of the space pieces out of it. But then I'm like, well, then I have to have like certain things for, well, now not only do I have to have a planet, some space junk, a moon, some other anomaly in space that I want the group to maybe explore or check out and have rumors. But then on the planet, then there's different points on the planet and the moon and the, and let's face it, I think with Wes March's fantasy, the drive is like exploration. Maybe they want to find magic, fight monsters. So I'm like, would the same motivation be within a space game? Because I mean, you're not going to gold, right? Necessarily, like, oh, gold, yay! Like it's not materialism or better gear. Yeah. Wow. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys, for the extended 30 minutes, if you will. I'm gonna sign off now. I think this is a good spot to sign off. I don't know why. So we kind of hashed this out a bit. Nelson says all the players could be on the same ship and just travel around. Yeah, that is yes. Yes. True. Oh, so many options. Ty says, I like the idea you're trying to find a new home planet and a previous team has found it. They left clues how to find them and the planet. You could follow the clues. Now keep in mind though, and that's fine, Ty. Like that's great. That's a great scenario. Like a total great campaign. But everything has to be one session based like this, and the group dictates what they're doing. So with the clues thing, if you're trying to find somebody, they have one single objective. Where with Wes Marches, they just want to see what's over there. But yeah, enjoy the weekend, the 4th USA Peeps, and happy Canada Day. I apologize to my fellow Canadians because I'm kind of Canadian. So happy Canada Day. I don't know the holidays very well because my family's they're expats, I guess, for the most part. But thanks. So thanks to everybody that supported me over this time and continue to support me. And you support me by showing up, keeping me company every week. And I really appreciate it and contribute. Like now I got other things rolling in my brain. I might even have to play the chat back and go, oh, okay, that's interesting. Oh, I like that. Go, oh, what? 5 oxygen tanks deep. What? Oh, I should probably make that game. Never gonna happen. But thank you for everybody that supported me, as well as the ones that have thrown a few shekels. Now that I'm monetized, great, yay. I will be here next week, Saturday, of course. I don't know what I'm doing this weekend. Like, it might be a slow weekend for Sean. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know. Should I play a game? Should I focus on something? We'll see. I don't know. Play some games, right? If you feel so inclined, if you have time this week, hang with people you enjoy. Don't hang with people you don't enjoy. Life's too short. Be a positive force in the tabletop RPG hobby. Create, learn, and move. Those are my mantras for today, as always. So we'll see you next week. Join our Discord if you haven't already. Stop in every once in a while. Some good conversations going on as always. And we'll see you again on the next stream. Take it easy.